Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Graham, and we're going to talk about Benjamin Sesko because it looks like he is the chosen one. Now, I've spoken about him on various bits of content. Of course, you'll have heard a lot about Benjamin Sesko here on AFTV. I think this is the first time we're digging into the numbers, and I couldn't do it without Graham. So, Graham, how are you? We're used to doing this week in, week out after matches. I'm really excited to actually spend time with you going through the numbers and raw data around the players that Arsenal are trying to sign, dare I say looking like signing, because supposedly everything's pretty advanced according to Fabrizio Romano. But how are you, mate? And how excited are you to talk about Benjamin Sesko as our potential new striker?
Yeah, really excited about this one, James. We've done a lot of work on this one, haven't we, before the show today, so I'm really looking forward to getting into the reason today why I think Arteta wants Sesko over Gyokeres.
This is a player that I've spoken about. Last year I did something on my channel about him. I've watched a lot of whether it be the guys on the Canon have talked about, looking at Canon stats, we've talked about him. I've spoken to Ben Mattinson, who's a brilliant football scout. I've been chatting with him on my channel about Sesko. But this is the first time I'm sort of pulling everything, over 12 months of trying to learn about this player, into kind of one data-led video, and I'm really excited about it because it's certainly the clearest idea I've ever had on this player, and I'm excited to do it with you. But the first thing that needs to be covered is it's been the Sesko-Gyokeres debate. Now, I know some of you in the comments will be starting, so let me address it. Yes, a month ago I was on the Gyokeres train. I was thinking his pure numbers are sensational. He is hitting levels that they're not matched. You can't just go, yeah, but the Portuguese league, yeah, the numbers are unbelievable. And we've seen him cause Arsenal problems. I thought he did well in the game against us. I thought he was brilliant against Man City. The Champions League numbers are translating too. He scored goals in the Championship comparable to Ollie Watkins, if not better than Watkins. Look what Watkins has done in the league. So I'm not for 1 second saying that suddenly, oh no, Gyokeres isn't the guy, he's not going to be good enough. No. But the more I've learnt about Benjamin Sesko, the more I can understand why this is the avenue Arsenal want to go down. Does it make it the right route? Should Arsenal and Arteta be more adaptable in terms of the strengths of each one and actually play towards facilitating a goal scorer like Gyokeres? Maybe, that's another debate. But if you're talking about the player right now that is a better fit for Arsenal today, it is Benjamin Sesko because of his guile, his technical quality, the variety of positions he picks up on the pitch, whereas Gyokeres is a player that you build to facilitate him. And I think those are the major differences I see. We're going to go through the rest of the data, but I wanted your take on all that as well.
Yeah, I think if you're going for the player here and now, that player will be Gyokeres. Goals tell you that, the goals he's scoring. But if you're looking probably the player who's the better option, which is, I think, the argument, that will be Benjamin Sesko. They've got their playing styles are very different. I saw a great analogy on One Football. Their playing styles, they compared them to like a breed of dog. I think Gyokeres was almost like the bull terrier, snapping at defenders' heels every time he got a sight of goal. Sesko is more the Great Dane, powerful, athletic, speedy, and almost Haaland-esque in his build and profile. And I think that ultimately is what Arteta likes about him.
He has been compared stylistically, Cesko, to many players. And in terms of the height and the speed, because the speed is something, we'll go through the numbers in a little bit, that is something that people perhaps don't realise Cesko really has. When you watch his comps, very rarely is he tearing into space, but that's almost because of the system he's played in more at Leipzig. Some people have used, and again, these are just style comparisons. I know you're all going to run away with, oh, brilliant, you all think we're getting the next Ibrahimovic. But he's kind of more in terms of Ibra had this ability to pop up in lots of spaces and let his technical quality do the talking. And some people are saying he plays more like that, though maybe his physical profile matches another type of striker. So there's been a lot of confusion about what type of player he is. So let's go into the data. And of course, when we talk about a striker, we talk numbers first. We've got them here. You sent this all through. You can see the goals he scored from his first season in senior football, 21 goals, 11 goals in his first campaign at Salzburg before an 18-goal league season. He scored 18 goals in all comps in his first season at Leipzig. We were trying to sign him on the back of that season at the £55 million release clause. He signed a new contract. There is a release clause now that is supposedly more affordable than the 100 million that's been thrown around, but it's still more sizable than what we were going to spend last year. But he did score 21 goals in this last campaign as well. In the Bundesliga only, you can see he got 14 goals and 2 assists in his first campaign, 13 goals and 5 assists, that's 27 goals and 7 assists, 34 GA in 64 appearances, which on the face of it, doesn't scream amazing numbers, does it, Graham?
No, I think there's a reason for that. We both agree on this one, is that over the last season he was playing more out wide, creating goals for Openda, who plays up front for Leipzig. So I think I see him more as a box player. I think he's going to fit the system that Arteta is looking to evolve, and it's the next evolution for Mikel Arteta at Arsenal, to build a side round a physical number 9. But I think the reason why those numbers were so low is because I thought that just the way he was being deployed by Leipzig, and I've watched a lot of games with him seemingly sort of like providing almost like assists for Openda, or playing out wide in wide areas trying to get balls into the box for Openda. So I think that would change at Arsenal. I'm not saying he's not going to be playing out wide left or wide right in the system, but I think that's the reason why those numbers were low.
Let's focus on the goal scoring, because you sent this through. He's the most goals scored by players aged 21 or under across Europe's top 5 leagues has Sesko at the top with 13. There's Stassin of Saint Etienne on 12 and Musiala at Bayern Munich on 11. And this from Canon Stats. I like a shot map, I like an XG map, I like this kind of data. As you can see, the yellow is his goals, the red are his shots that were on target, and the sort of bluey grey, it's a grey, isn't it, is the shots in total. You can see 47 of his 93 shots were actually on target, which I think in itself is a good thing. You can see the shots that were from less than 12 metres, 39.8% of them, but from over 25 metres, 14% of his shots too, which really surprised me. You can see the size of the circle tells you how good an XG chance there was, the quality of that opportunity. An XG of 13.6 overall, XG per shot of 0.146. But you look at these in a little bit more detail. I like the amount of shots he's getting on target from actually quite a distance. If you can see very lightly, there's a dotted line. It sort of circles around, what's that? That would be a dotted line of, 16.7 metres it says on the graphic. And look how many shots he's getting on target from that kind of range. Look how many shots he's having in general from outside the box. Yes, he's fast and could run in behind and use his pace. Yes, he's a box striker, or maybe has the attributes to be that more. I totally hear that. But this is someone, and we'll show you in a heat map later, who can do a lot of work, not just in terms of build-up and facilitating play, but actually being a threat from distance. And you don't normally say that about a 6'5" centre-forward.
No, it's true. I think one of his 3 qualities is his ball striking. He hits the ball bloody hard, doesn't he? And he's not frightened to take a shot. I think one of the criticisms of the team over the last year or so is that we don't shoot enough. This guy's not afraid to shoot. And basically he's a manager's dream because he's able to generate real power from his strikes, and also he's able to score goals from low XG value, and that is a real manager's dream, James.
Yeah, and that's actually shown in this exact graphic, because this is an open play shot map, but there's 4, because we mentioned the yellow circles are the goals. There's 4 from quite a distance.
Is that the goal against Bayern?
Yeah, that one, that bottom left one, that feels a bit of an outlier to all his other shots, was the one where he recognised, I think it was Neuer off his line, and he went with the outside of his boot. And it's a brilliant goal. But this is someone who, actually, his goal highlight reel, you can't deny the quality he possesses, whether it's potential or it's a finished article. My word, this guy can do things with the football.
He can, and great technique. Anyone who hasn't seen that goal, I suggest you check it out. The technique and the ball striking to score from that distance, to recognise the opening and to execute it, it was top level, top class.
Yeah. Now this also was put together by Canon Stats, and it does look at data via Opta. It looks at 2021 from the 21-22 campaign to the 24-25 campaign. Now I'm going to be so honest with you. We weren't even sure whether to include this in the video because I'm not sure we completely understand it. But if we do, then it looks good. So help us understand in the comments if we are getting this right. But we've got the goals scored compared to the XG by chance quality. Okay, so on the left we've got total XG and total goals. On the bottom we've got XG/goals grouped by chance quality. What I believe this graphic is showing, and again let us know if we're correct, is it's got next to each other the XG, anything that's an XG, expected goals, a chance of 0.0 to 5% chance of scoring, and actually how many goals he actually scored from that. So how many times he had an XG shot of around 0 to 5%, and how many goals he actually scored from those chances essentially. And what I think this graphic is showing, you're probably wondering why I've even included it. What I think this is showing is that he regularly, often, from a complete variety of XG chances, is scoring above the quality of chance that he's being provided with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's what's being shown.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's quite significant because I think one of the criticisms of the team last year is though we create chances, the actual chance quality that we create hasn't been good enough. That's the reason why we don't score so many goals.
Yeah.
The reason why the goals dropped off last year. The fact is that he, as I said earlier, when we spoke earlier in the video, was that basically he's able to score goals with low XG quality, and that's one of his strengths. So you think of the qualities he's got. The speed is obviously the main factor he's got in his game. I know we're going to talk about that. The aerial prowess, he's good in the air, but ball striking from lots of different positions and putting the ball in the net from almost impossible angles is part of his strength.
And I think to put this into context, you know, you could have low XG chances that have racked up and he hasn't scored from any of them, which maybe suggests he is a penalty box finisher, which suggests he is someone who needs the higher XG chances, he'll put them away. But with the lower XG chances, you know, he's not someone who finishes from distance, who finds the corners, who can make things happen out of nothing. But this suggests that there is a consistency to whatever strike he's getting off at goal, from nearer to goal, from further away, from certain angles. He's actually still able to regularly ask more of a question and score more goals than perhaps he's expected to. From a data perspective, and I appreciate this is all very much data-led, if you want a little bit more on the kind of verbal eye test perspective, I did talk to Ben Matson on Transfers Explained on the Gooniverse. If you kind of want that kind of insight from a data perspective, it's looking really, really good too. Now, why does Arteta want him in his team? Because the physical attributes he's got, we've touched on, is a big thing. Now, you sent me this from Daily AFC _ on Instagram, who basically put in the caption, if Arsenal sign Benjamin Sesko, they'll be able to field a lineup of players over 6 foot at the start of next season. He's got there Cesko, Havertz, Saliba, Gabriel, Rice, Marino, Kivior, Calafiori, Partey and White. Not quite sure what the system would be. You probably got Partey right back in there, and probably a few others that are,
Well, it's great for defending set plays and for attacking set plays, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was just thinking, look at that, how far we've come from the Wenger days, of the likes of Santi Cazorla and the little players we used to have in the team there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wilshere, Cazorla, Rosicky,
of course,
Arteta himself.
Arteta obviously is signing tall players, isn't he? And Cesko is going to be the tallest of any of them at 6'5".
Yeah, he would be. And let me say, by the way, when I watched what PSG did to Inter Milan in that Champions League final, and when I saw what they did in 25 minutes against us, and watching Barcelona, and I don't think, by the way, this is necessarily linked to height. I just think sometimes there's, a correlation. I think we could do with more of the nippy, technical type players. Zubimendi himself is 5'11". He's on the brink of 6 foot himself. So Arteta clearly, though, wants to get that balance between technical quality and height. Clearly, being physically imposing is something he is instructing this team, as well as being defensively very resolute and having a really high press and being a really high energy intense side. That's all part of intensity. You could put it under that word. It's clearly something Arteta wants. He wants us to be intense when we're going long, when we're playing short, in possession, out of possession, which you can understand, but it's so interesting that he's really put so much into the height of the team. Yeah. By the way, I do think that's slightly wrong. I do actually think Saliba is 6'3" and Gabriel 6'4". But anyway, either way, a very tall side.
I think the league has changed a lot over the last few years. Physicality, pace and power are very much now much needed attributes in the Premier League, James. But what I will say is he's got tall players, physical players, but a lot of them are technical as well. It's not that they can't play.
I completely agree with that.
He wants a balance, doesn't he? And I think it's not just about getting tall players, it's about the full range of the profile player. So, but obviously, if you're getting tall players, that helps you in both boxes.
But I think there are fundamentals Arteta absolutely falls on. So Timber 5'10" and Lewis Skelly maybe 5'8", 5'9", I'm not sure. My word, they got a leap on them. My word.
Yeah, we saw that with Lewis Skelly. We saw that, didn't we?
Winning the header on Dan Burn.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that will be you know, Arteta's not saying you all need to be over 6 foot, but you have to be able to stand up to his physical demands. And that's why I think Kai Havertz, for whatever we think he lacks maybe in terms of finishing or maybe a little bit of guile and class, there is a physical application that Arteta certainly appreciates about the player, even if he does have a slightly more languid style. So it's really interesting that Arteta, he's certainly going to involve this team in some way, but I don't think he's going to move away from those core principles. I think he looks at them as a key reason why we took City to the final day. And he probably thinks if we keep building on that and getting the right players, it will get over the line. So interesting that. Let's go to Ben Cesko's Bundesliga goals breakdown, because it says a little bit more about his physical qualities too. 27 goals, rank him 7th in the Bundesliga. Is this since he arrived? Bundesliga goal breakdown?
Since the last season.
Absolutely. Right-footed goals, that's clearly where he scores most of his goals, but 8 headed goals is the 4th highest in the league, with 5 being from fast breaks too. So it suggests it's someone who can be on the end of fast breaks, something Arsenal don't do too well, although hold that because we've got another graphic you've sent through. He could be someone who can be on the end of fast breaks. He is someone who can clearly get on the end of moves and sweeping counter-attacks. That was all from Sky Sports, who also showed us this, that Arsenal... I want to show you a different graphic. Sorry, this one here from Sky Sports as well. It basically shows that last season Arsenal scored more fast break goals than in any of the previous 4 seasons under Arteta. Their total of 9, putting them behind only Liverpool and Tottenham in the Premier League. They also registered their highest totals for shots and expected goals from fast breaks under Arteta. So that pace and that quality and those numbers that Cesko has on fast breaks might actually marry up nicely with an Arsenal side that have evolved in the last sort of year from this perspective of the game.
We scored 9 goals from fast breaks, I think, last year, and we had 28, I think, shots from fast breaks. The numbers are significantly improved last year, and I think we've been talking about the next evolution for Arteta and the team, and I think, you know, we are really good in the big games against the top 6. We seem to have trouble against the middle of the table side, so we struggle to break down in their low blocks. So I think moving to a more direct style, moving to counter-attacking at times, fast breaks, players with speed, I think it's the next evolution of this team, and I think that's what he's going to be going with next season. And I think Cesko fits perfectly into that, what he wants to this team, the direction this team to go.
His speed is evident here because Benjamin Sesko's top speed compared to Arsenal players, according to Sky Sports, looks at the Premier League and the Bundesliga from the 24-25 campaign and has Cesko at 35.69 kilometres per hour, only behind Gabriel Martinelli. I didn't think Ethan Wannier would be so high up there. Kind of expected it of Saliba and maybe Ben White, but there you go. Thomas Partey racking up the 7th highest speed as well, which is interesting for people who say he kind of struggles to get around the pitch a little bit. But no, last season wasn't a problem for him. But Cesko ranking 2nd. Do you think Arsenal will play to that? Forget just the fast break stuff. Do you think Ødegaard, Saka, they'll look for those runs in behind? They'll look for him to explode behind? Because we're going to show in a sec, he's got a lot of variety to his game in terms of the areas of the pitch he plays in. But when you've got speed like that, you've got to be able to get that out of a striker too. Now, if you're playing against mid and low blocks, that's difficult. But we've got to at some point be able to hurt teams with these physical attributes he's got.
He's got that weapon in his locker, so it'd be foolish not to use it, wouldn't we? And I think he can play up the shoulder. So I think the answer to the question is yes, we will. I think one of the problems last year is we turned away from the obvious, James, that we weren't, when Martinelli, who was top of that chart, we talked about in the last show we did, that he was peeling off centre-halves, making runs in behind, and we weren't looking to feed him through. Maybe that might have been that they didn't have the trust in Martinelli as much as the way they wanted to build up. But now they've got Cesko and they know that's his strength or one of his strengths. I feel certain that we're going to look to use it. And we're going to talk about the way we're going to use him today. But one of his strengths is that ability to run up the shoulder with his raw pace and get a shot away. And I think that's where this team needs to go now. We need to be more direct and we need to have him more shots. And I think he gives us that option.
I totally agree. Now let me show you this, right? So this is a graphic of what we've covered so far. His strongest attributes, we believe, are his speed, his aerial prowess. We've seen all of that in various numbers. We talked about his ball striking. I think the shot map from Cannon Stats really highlights that. Now, next up is the range to his game. This is Cesko's heat map for the Bundesliga 24-25 season. I mean, no one can tell me when you look at that he's been platformed, that he has been put in a position tactically, in terms of the instructions he's given, to get the most out of the goal threat he is or could be. I'm sorry, he is touching the ball more in the build-up third than he is in the penalty area from a pure heat map. But okay, actually this is a heat map, so it's not actually a touch map, it's a heat map. But it just shows you that for all the attributes he supposedly has, to be a really clinical, powerful, exciting goal scorer who's got all this ability and all this potential to his game, he's not been asked to do that. So it's quite hard to get an idea for whether he could even hit those kind of exceptional numbers we're talking about. He's 22 years old, strikers only get better and better, and that's the main drawback, is, well, does he fire us to the title now? But I'd even say that it's kind of hard to know that, because look where he's playing his football. He's been asked to do a lot. Now that actually fits perfectly with what Mikel Arteta wants from his strikers, but it's also a reason for everyone to just hold on in terms of judging his numbers too much.
Yeah, I think playing for Arsenal this season, he'll be playing in a team, I think, that will give him chances.
Yeah.
And I think Leipzig, obviously 4th or 5th in Bundesliga, were they? I can't think where they finished last season.
Actually lower, I think they were 7th.
Yeah, all right, they finished lower. But he'll be in the top team next year. And I think he'll be... we're going to talk about how we're going to use him, and he could be used in a wide variety of ways, James. But those numbers that we looked at, and we talked about Gyokeres' scoring record, and I will say about Gyokeres, there's a lot of penalties in those goals he scored. But Cesko playing in an Arsenal team that's going to give him chances, those numbers, I think, would double. I do think he'd be capable of 20 plus goals in this team.
I think he's capable of that.
Yeah,
I do believe he's capable of that. The question is, does 60 to 70 million go on a player like Cesko, who we're describing as, for all these attributes and all this great data, he definitely feels raw still. There's definitely sides to his game that feel a little bit, a little raw, despite what a refined technician he feels at times when you look at some of the goals he's scored and things he's done. It's a case of how much importance that put on the left winger then. Because if we are going to get both, a striker and a left winger, one of them for me has to be that proven quality you can depend on. And maybe Cesko, you bide your time a little bit, but ultimately we have to have a front three and a team and a midfield and everything that we believe is good enough to win the league. And Cesko might be a part of that without being the missing final piece that is the answer to all our problems, if that makes sense. He can be a part of it without being the guy, which for 70 million though sounds a bit, I mean, you kind of maybe are expecting him to be that. Yeah,
I think with him coming in, I think the key to this is obviously getting that left winger. And we talked about this morning. Somebody who's creative, who's got a good passing range, who can play on the inside, someone who he can have a relationship with, and also Kai Havertz could be part of a relationship if he was to play at number 10, for example. But I do think that Cesko at a quality left winger, that gives you two important key elements to improve the team next year. And I think you made a great point to me this morning when I came up here. If we don't get the left winger, maybe it's not such a good signing without a quality left winger. But I do think that... I agree with you. I do think we need, and all the talk is about us getting a left winger. And if we do get that, that's going to clearly help Cesko's game. And the other key thing is it's also going to help Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side, because what I've watched over the last few years is Arsenal's strength is on the right-hand side. Teams understand that, and they try and shut down that right-hand side, knowing that the quality on the left-hand side, albeit Martinelli has got that ability to run in behind, but the quality on the left-hand side doesn't match the output you get on the right-hand side. So once the right-hand side is shut down, you've shut Arsenal down. Now, if you've got quality on the left-hand side, a real quality player, we talked about possibly Rodrigo, for example, if we could get him, I just think that's going to be massive for Arsenal. Not just it won't only improve Benjamin Cesko, it'll help Benjamin Cesko in the team. Just imagine what it's going to do to Bukayo Saka. His numbers are going to explode. So I think part of this, we talked about the next evolution, getting a striker, which Arteta clearly needs, and we've been flaunting with Cesko now for over a year. But I think part of the jigsaw will also be getting that left winger.
Well, let's talk about how this all looks on the pitch then, because I can't believe we're 24 minutes in and we haven't even looked at the tactical pad. I think because a lot of this, is covered by the data. We know that he plays a lot of football in these areas, dropping in, supporting. And I think one thing Arsenal did really interestingly was start to evolve last season towards the striker dropping in so much and actually that left 8 really getting further forward. And then you'd have, Lewis Skelly tucking in. But I saw Rice, Marino, whoever was in the left 8 often making runs and marauding in almost a striker position. But you've mentioned Kai Havertz there. Now I have to say to you all people, first thing I'm expecting is this. Cesko on the bench, warming up. Let's move out the team for a sec. And Kai Havertz starting next season. I'm sorry, I do. I think there's more chances of Mendy comes straight in. But I mean, he's going to have a battle with Partey because Partey was very good last season. But I think it's more likely Zubimendi's bedded in quite quickly. And I think Kai Havertz will keep his place and will start the season as our lead striker. But I do think you can expect almost Rice to come out the team, Havertz to play for some football as the left 8. And then you've got... Arteta's all about dynamics. And I think you'll have the diamond that we've talked about so many times before, haven't we, Graham?
Yeah.
The Cruyff diamond.
Yeah.
And Arsenal doing something more like this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And when Sesko played at Salzburg, he played in a 4-4-2 diamond. I think in the last video I did with you, you talked about Martin Odegaard. That maybe you wanted another number 8, number 10 to replace him.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily so sure that Declan Rice will come out the team because I think Declan Rice is his go-to player. But what I can see happening is that Odegaard maybe... I think there'll be plenty of rotation this year because I think he's bringing in more quality. He'll have more chance to rotate and we won't get players so knackered during the season. So he will be rotating players. I can see Odegaard missing some games against maybe teams with low block. And we gravitate to more of a diamond, a 4-4-2, where I know it's not his natural side, but Declan Rice could play on the right-hand side, and Havertz and Sesko are in those positions, in that 4-4-2 diamond. And what you could see is the role of Sesko, I think it could be one of a number of things. He could drop in where Havertz is, and Havertz could run in behind in that position or run on beyond. He could... go out to the wide left area with, say that's Rodrigo. Yeah. And Rodrigo could come inside with Havertz down the middle. So you've got creativity in the inside channel there in the half space. Or he can even drive out move over to the right hand side and then Havertz again down the middle and Saka coming inside. So you get Saka closer to goal. So what Cesko brings you is real quality that he can play right across the front line. I know Havertz did play on the right-hand side at times last year, but I think Cesko is a better all-round footballer than Havertz. He offers more than Havertz. He can do the things that Havertz can do, but he's more clinical with his finishing and he's got more speed, more speed. So having Cesko in the team and Havertz, I think Havertz at 10, which is his best position, you can rest Odegaard at times and play Havertz at 10, Rodrigo or Martinelli on the left, Saka on the right, and Cesko and Havertz can build a relationship where one comes short, one goes beyond, or Havertz can stay short and Cesko then Havertz can crash the box, almost like a second striker. So it gives you lots of options. So I don't think that should be ruled out. I do agree with you, possibly Odegaard could start on the right-sided 8 position, and then Rice might not start if Havertz plays, but then Havertz might miss some games where Rice plays. I think you've got so many options there now that he didn't have last season. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Do you know, I know people will be saying there's no Rice, there's no Partey in that 11, so they don't expect it to happen. I actually think Arteta is going to enter an era of rotation. I think we're going to see him mixing up the 11 a lot more next season. I think he knows there's immense pressure to compete on all fronts. I think tiredness has been a factor for this Arsenal team. Injuries was a factor last season. And with the squad he trusts, I think he'll rotate more. I think finally, when I look at this, he will... Let me show you something. Let's get the ball out. Odegaard is capable of a moment of magic, whether it be a lofted ball to the back post, a through ball in behind or whatever. But I think Arteta believes breaking down teams isn't about the individual quality that he should bring out of an Odegaard or maybe a Saka, but about dynamics. You move here, he moves here. You move wide, that gives him a run inside. Or If Lewis Kelly goes on the overlap, Havertz drops into build-up, Mate comes inside, you give players a different problem. I think he always thinks it's the system more than anything. Now, yes, in some games, individual quality will win you it, but I think he looks at things from a 38-game season perspective. If I coach this into the team, if we have the dynamics right, if we have the system right, we are more likely to overcome these problems than hoping that some magic from a great player saves us. I think that's how we views the solution to breaking teams down. Because ultimately, when we talk about adding a left winger or a striker, it's for that. That's our biggest hurdle. That's our biggest problem, has been for a few years now. And I think he thinks the dynamic is the way to change it, which is why I tell you all to expect Havertz to play more football next season than perhaps you're thinking because we're signing a striker.
Yeah, just one final point. The number of games last season were very tight, and you do need somebody. Interestingly, you talked about that bit of magic, and I do agree with everything you said there. But sometimes you do need a player in a tight game just to do something special.
Of course you do.
And I think that's what we've got.
Absolutely
potentially that Cesko is capable of. And if we did bring Rodrigo in, that's what he would be capable of. So often games are very tight and are settled by or swung by individual brilliance as much as Arteta sees the value of the team shape that you're talking about. But I will say that I think he gets both with Cesko.
He's got look at some of the goals. There's no
some of the goals he's scored, he can score a goal out of nothing.
Yeah.
But he can also fit the team pattern that I think Arteta wants to play.
Totally agree. So my overall thoughts, I'll put here in my notes. I think he's a very technical footballer, though raw in terms of his use of it all, if that makes sense. I think he's maybe raw in front of goal, but I don't think he's been platformed to actually show what a great goal scorer is. His numbers feel like that's not the, league-winning striker that we're probably hoping for, but that doesn't mean he's actually even had the opportunity to show he is that. He's 22, so he's young, but he's not super young. I think his best years are to come. I think he's a perfect profile for an Arteta striker. The question isn't whether he fits brilliantly to what Arteta wants. The question is, does Arteta's game model still work? And should he be evolving to get more out of a Gyokeres in order to win a title? And my final question is, does he win us the league now? Yes or no, Graham? Is he the kind of striker that can come in and take us genuinely close to the title, if not over the line?
I think he is. I think he is, but I would say that he does need that left winger. I
agree with that. I think on his own, no. Whereas I think an Isak is on his own.
I think you've got to remember one thing about. Interesting you brought up Isak, because when before Isak came to the Premiership, he wasn't scoring goals for Real Sociedad at the level he does for Newcastle now. And even scoring goals for Newcastle, he hasn't got them close to winning the Premiership. But I think Sesko, will push us close to the title if he stays fit. And I think he will be eased into the team in the way you say. But I think he is capable of good goal-scoring numbers. But I think the most important thing, and it suits the way Arteta wants to play, is that left winger. And it has to be a quality left winger. It can't be, throw a name at me. Not trying to disrespect anyone, but we've been linked to a few, haven't we?
Leroy Sané,
who I think is now going to Galatasaray, I think. But it's got to be someone of the quality of Rodrigo, or maybe Rafael Leao,
or Nico Williams.
And that's the sort of players we have. If we had a player of that quality with Cesko, I think that takes us potentially to a title.
Okay, there we go, everyone. Expect this week, this breakdown weekly, tactical insight, in focus. I'm not sure what we're calling it, but basically we are back, Graham and I, on these sofas like we do after every game day. But we want to talk about players we're linked with. Graham, a huge thank you, because guys, show some love for Graham in the comments. 99% of this is his work. I've just tried to give what I know and understand of the player to complement the great work Graham has done. Let us know your thoughts on Benjamin Sesko in the comment section below. Are you excited about it? How does he compare for you to Victor Gyokeres? Where should the money be going? How important is the left winger? Does he take us closer to the title? In fact, I'm betting that question too much. I'm padding it too much. Does he win us the title? That's the striker we're looking for. If you think he can, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you, Graham. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and we'll see you very soon.